Chapter 26. The Question of Questions. The road to the Janambhumi temple clung to the sides of a gently sloping hill and ended its journey at Lord Ram's abode. It afforded a breathtaking view of the city below, but Shiva did not see it. Neither did he see the magnificent opulence of the gigantic temple nor the gorgeously landscaped gardens around it. The temple was sheer poetry written in white marble composed by the architect of the gods. The architect had designed a grand staircase leading up to the main temple platform, which was awe-inspiring and yet inviting. Colossal ornate marble statues in sober blue and grey had been engraved on the platform. Elaborately curved pillars supported an ostentatious yet tasteful ceiling of blue marble. The architect obviously knew that Lord Ram's favorite time of the day was the morning. On the ceiling, the morning sky, as it would have been seen in the absence of the temple roof, had been lovingly painted. On top of the ceiling, the temple spire shot upwards to a height of almost 100 meters, like a giant namaste to the gods. The Swadipans, to their credit, had not imposed their garish sensibilities on the temple. Its restrained beauty was in keeping with the way the sober Lord Ram would have liked it. Shiva did not notice any of this, nor did he look at the intricately carved statues in the inner sanctum. Lord Ram's idol at the center was surrounded by his beloveds. To the right was his loving wife Sita, and to the left was his devoted brother Lakshman. At their feet, on his knees, was Lord Ram's most fervent and favorite disciple Hanuman of the Vayuputra tribe, the son of the wind god. Shiva could not find the strength to look Lord Ram in the eyes. He feared the verdict he would receive. He crouched behind a pillar, resting against it, grieving. When he couldn't control his intense feelings of guilt anymore, his eyes released the tears they had been holding back. Shiva made desperate attempts to control his tears, but they kept flowing as though a dam had burst. He bit into his boiled feast, overcome by remorse. He curled his legs up against his chest and rested his head on his knees. Drowning in his sorrow, Shiva did not feel the compassionate hand on his shoulder. On getting no reaction, the hand squeezed his shoulder lightly. Shiva recognized the touch but kept his head bowed. He did not want to appear weak, be seen with tears in his eyes. The gentle hand, old and worn with age, withdrew quietly, while its owner waited patiently until Shiva had composed himself. When the time was right, he came forward and sat down in front of him. A somber Shiva did a formal namaste to the Pandit, who looked almost exactly like the Pandits that Shiva had met at the Brahma temple at Meru and the Mohan temple at Mohenjo-daro. He sported the same flowing white beard and a white mane. He wore a saffron dhoti and angavastram just like the other Pandits did. The wizened face had the same calm, welcoming smile. Shiva could not help noticing, though, that this one's girth was far more generous. "Is it really so bad?" asked the Pandit. His eyes narrowed and head tilted slightly, in the typically Indian empathetic manner. Shiva shut his eyes and lowered his head again. The Pandit waited patiently for Shiva's reply. "You don't know what I have done." "I do know." Shiva looked up at the Pandit, his eyes full of surprise and shame. "I know what you have done, oh Nilkant," said the Pandit, And I ask again, is it really so bad? Don't call me the Nilkant, glared Shiva. I don't deserve the title. I have the blood of thousands of innocents on my hands. Many more than thousands have died, said the Pandit. Probably hundreds of thousands. But do you really think they would not have died had you not been around? Is their blood really on your hands? Of course it is. It was my stupidity that led to this war. I had no idea what I was doing. A personality was thrust upon me, and I wasn't worthy of it. Hundreds of thousands have perished as a result. Shiva curled up his fist and pounded his forehead, desperately trying to soothe the throbbing heat on his brow. The Pandit stared in mild surprise at the deep red blotch on Shiva's forehead, right between his eyes. It was not the color of a blood clot, it was a much deeper hue, almost black. The Pandit chose silence, though his surprise was barely controlled. The time was not yet ripe. The moment of revelation had not yet come. And it's all because of me, mourned Shiva, his eyes moistening again. It's all my fault. Soldiers are kshatriyas, my friend, said the Pandit, a picture of calm. Nobody forces them to die. They chose their path, knowing full well the risk it entails and also the possible glory that comes with it. The Nilkant is not the kind of person on whom responsibility can be thrust against his will. You chose this. You were born for it. Shiva looked at the Pandit, startled. His eyes seemed to ask, born for it? The Pandit ignored the question posed by Shiva's eyes. Everything happened for a reason. If you are going through this turmoil, there is a divine plan in it. What bloody divine reason can there be for so many deaths? The destruction of evil? Wouldn't you consider that a very important reason? But I did not destroy evil, yelled Shiva. These people aren't evil. They are just different. Being different isn't evil. The Pandit's face broke into his typically enigmatic smile. Exactly. They are not evil. They are just different. You have realized it very quickly, my friend, a lot earlier than the previous Mahadev. Shiva was perplexed by the Pandit's word. Lord Rudra? Yes, Lord Rudra. But he did destroy evil. He destroyed the Asuras. And who said the Asuras were evil? I read it. Shiva stopped mid sentence. He finally understood. Yes, smiled the Pandit. You have guessed correctly. Just like the Suryavanshis and the Chandravanshis see each other as evil, so did the Devas and the Asuras. So if you are going to read a book written by the Devas, what do you think the Asuras are going to be portrayed as? You mean they were just like today's Suryavanshis and Chandravanshis? More so than you can imagine. The Devas and the Asuras, just like the Chandravanshis and the Suryavanshis, represent two balancing life forces, a duality. Duality? Yes, a duality that is one of the most perspectives of the universe. The masculine and the feminine. The Asuras and the Suryavanshis represent the masculine. The Devas and the Chandravanshis speak for the feminine. The name change, but the life forces they embody remain the same. They will always exist. Neither can ever be destroyed, otherwise the universe will implode. And they see their fight with the other as the eternal struggle between good and evil. Exactly, beamed the Pandit, marveling at Shiva's knee mind even in his time of distress. But they haven't been fighting all the time. Sometimes there have been long period of cooperation as well. In times of strife, which usually happens when there is evil, it is easy to blame each other. The difference between two dissimilar ways of life gets portrayed as a fight between good and evil. Just because the Chandravanshis are different from the Suryavanshis doesn't mean that they are evil. What do you think the Nilkant had to be an outsider so that he would not be biased towards any one way of life? Said Shiva, as a veil lifted before his eyes. Exactly. The Nilkant has to be above all this. He has to be devoid of any bias. But I was not free of biases. I was convinced that the Chandravanshis are evil. Maybe what Anandamai says is right. Maybe I am naive, easily misled. Don't be so hard on yourself, my friend. You cannot drop from the sky knowing everything, can you? You would have to enter the equation from one side or the other, and whichever side you entered from, you would obviously be colored by their ways while viewing the other side as evil. You have realized your error early. Lord Rudra did not recognize it till it was almost too late. He had nearly destroyed the Asuras before he grasped the simple fact that they were not evil, just different. Nearly destroyed them? You mean some Asuras still exist? The Pandit smiled mysteriously. That conversation is for another time, my friend. What you need to understand is that you are not the first Mahadev who was misled, and you will not be the last. Imagine if you will. What Lord Rudra's feeling of guilt must have been. Shiva kept quiet, his eyes downcast. The knowledge of Lord Rudra's guilt did not reduce the shame that racked his soul. Reading his thoughts, the Pandit continued, "You made the best decision. You could understand the circumstances. I know that this will be cold comfort, but being the Nilkant isn't easy. You will have to bear the burden of this guilt. I know the kind of person you are. It will be heavy burden. Your challenge is not to suppress the guilt or the pain. You have too good a heart to be able to do that. Your challenge is to stay true to your karma, to your duty in spite of the pain. That is the fate and the duty of a Mahadev. But what kind of Mahadev am I? Why am I required? How am I to destroy evil if I don't know what evil is? Who has said that your job is to destroy evil? A startled Shiva stared hard at the Pandit. He disliked the irritating word games that these Pandits seemed to love to indulge in. Glimpsing the anger in Shiva's eyes, the Pandit clarified immediately. The strength that evil has is overestimated, my friend. It is not so difficult to annihilate. All it takes is for a few good men to decide that they will fight it. At practically all the times that evil has raised its head, it has met the same fate. It has been destroyed. Then why am I required? You're required for the most crucial task, to answer that most important question. What? What is evil? What is evil? Yes, many wars has been fought amongst men, said the Pandit, and many more will be fought in the future. That is the way of the world, but it is only a Mahadev who can convert one of these wars into a battle between good and evil. It is only the Mahadev who can recognize evil and then lead men against it before evil raises its ugly head and extinguishes all life. But how do I recognize evil? I can't help you there, my friend. I am not the Mahadev. This is a question you must find the answer to. But you have the heart, you have the mind. Keep them open and evil will appear before you. Appear? Yes, explained the Pandit. Evil has a relationship with you. It will come to you. All you have to do is recognize it when it appears. I have only one suggestion. Don't be hasty in trying to recognize evil. Wait for it. It will come to you. Shiva frowned. He looked down, trying to absorb the strange conversation. He turned towards Lord Ram's idol, seeking some direction. He did not find the judgment filled eyes he had expected to see. Instead, he saw a warm, encouraging smile. Your journey is not over, my friend, not by a long shot. It has just begun. You have to go on, otherwise, evil will triumph. Shiva's eyes cleared up a bit. His burden didn't feel any lighter, but he felt strong enough to carry it. He had to keep walking to the very end. Shiva looked up at the Pandit and smiled weakly. Who are you? The Pandit smiled. I know the answer had been promised to you, and a promise made by any of us is binding on all of us. I will not break it. Shiva gazed at the Pandit, waiting for the answer. We are the Vasudevs. The Vasudevs? Yes, each Vishnu leaves behind a tribe which is entrusted with two missions. Shiva continued to watch the Pandit intently. The first mission is to help the next Mahadev, if and when he appears. And the second? The second is that one of us will become the next Vishnu, whenever we are required to do so. The seventh Vishnu, Lord Ram, entrusted this task to the trusted Lieutenant Lord Vasudev. We are his followers. We are the tribe of Vasudev. Shiva stared at the Pandit, absorbing the implications of this information. He frowned as one inference suddenly occurred to him. Did the Mahadev also leave some tribes behind? Did Lord Rudra? The Pandit smiled, deeply impressed by Shiva's intellect. The Mohenjo-daro secretary was correct. This man is capable of being a Mahadev. Yes, Lord Rudra did leave behind a tribe, the tribe of Vayuputra. Vayuputra? Asked Shiva. The name sounded oddly familiar. The Pandit placed his hand on Shiva's shoulder. Leave this for another time, my friend. I think we have spoken enough for today. Go home. You need your good wife's comforting embrace. Tomorrow is another day, and your mission can wait till then. For now, go home. Shiva smiled an enigmatic smile, out of character with his simple Tibetan ways, but he had become an Indian now. He leaned forward to touch the Pandit's feet. The Pandit placed his hand on Shiva's head to bless him, speaking gently, Vijay Bhava, Jai Guru Vishwamitra, Jai Guru Vishishtha. Shiva nodded, accepting the blessings with grace. He got up, turned, and walked towards the temple steps. At the edge of the platform, he turned around to look at the Pandit once again. The Pandit was sitting on his haunches, touching his head reverentially to the ground that Shiva had just vacated. Shiva smiled and shook his head slightly. Looking beyond the Pandit, he gazed intently at the idol of Lord Ram. He put his hands together in a namaste and paid his respect to the Lord. His burden didn't feel any lighter, but he felt strong enough to carry it. He turned and began descending the steps. To his surprise, Sati was right in the middle of the compound, leaning against a statuesque Apsara cast in stone. He smiled. There was nothing in the world whom he would much rather see at this time. Walking towards her, he teased, Are you always going to follow me around? I know when you need to be alone, smiled Sati, and when you need me. Shiva froze suddenly. He could see a robe flapping behind the trees, a short distance from Sati. The light evening breeze gazed away the position of the skulking man. Sati followed Shiva's gaze and turned around. A robed figure wearing a holy mask emerged from behind the trees. It is him. Shiva's heart started beating faster. He was still a considerable distance away from Sati. The Naga was too close for comfort. The three stood rooted to their spots, assessing the situation, evaluating the other next move. It was Sati who moved first. Shifting quickly, she pulled a knife from her side hold and flung it at the Naga. The Naga barely stirred. The knife missed him narrowly, slamming hard into the tree behind him, burying deep into the wood. Shiva moved his hand slowly towards his sword. The Naga reached behind, pulled the knife out of the tree, and in a strange act tied it tightly to his right wrist with a cloth band. Then he moved quickly. Sati, screamed Shiva as he drew his sword and started sprinting towards his wife, pulling his shield forward as he ran.